What's up?
What's up, bro? How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Thank you for being here.
Of course. Happy to be here.
I am Thereza Peña. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I'm a proud lesbian and also a carpenter. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Liz Vanderwerff. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a lesbian.
Right on. I think you mentioned once it's like an LA thing for lesbians, especially like more masculine lesbians like us, to refer to each other as bro and dude. And
yeah, well, I didn't really catch on to that until my fiance told me, like, why do you guys always say that? Like, always like bro. And I didn't even realize it. But yeah, I guess up north, because I'm from Washington, so up north, you know, there's obviously that's a pretty gay area in Seattle, and I guess I never realized that nobody's like, bro, it just doesn't.
In LA, I don't know if it's the same in Washington, but we will categorize like a girl that looks just like a dude, we'll say she's a stud. And then a girl that looks really girly is a femme, and then a stem would sort of be right in between. So like me, I would, for example, I'm in the category of a stem. What category do you feel you land on?
A stud. Like within those specific categories, you know, I feel like us lesbians, we call ourselves things. Like I personally call myself a not that that's appropriate for
someone who's not gay.
Yeah,
right?
somebody who's not like a lesbian or gay, you know, like a gay guy could call me that and that's just fine. But
yeah,
aside from that, you know, because it's been used as a slur, or like I've been derogatorily called a and it's not. I don't know. Pretty infuriating.
And sometimes the way that we communicate with ourselves amongst the LGBTQ plus community, it could be confusing for an outsider. It's like,
it is.
Why did they call each other a or why, and we can't say it, or, you know, so
I mean, it is confusing. Like even my dad asked me that, you know, like.
What did he ask?
He asked me, you know, like why, if he would be, I don't know if he asked me if he would be allowed to say it, but it came up, like if it's appropriate or if straight people are allowed to say that, and I was like, well, no, because it has been used as a derogatory, like comment or slang, what, not slang, but like a slur, for so long that it's not. I mean, nobody could just be like, oh, you know.
What about stud? Are you offended with stud?
No.
Okay.
Nope. Stud is more like a category. That's
right,
not like
a category.
An
that's what I feel. And you know, the point of these interviews is it's more like to get the inside perspective of our community and like just terminology. And this doesn't necessarily mean that it applies like worldwide. I can just speak from experience from my city, from here in LA. I
don't know if it's American, but I think it's pretty, from everywhere that I've lived, that's pretty common.
Okay.
You know.
Right on.
Yeah, because it just helps people more so distinguish what they feel and who they're attracted to. Also. I think that's why
they would say, like, instead of "Are you tall, dark, and handsome?"
Yeah, it's like,
that would say, "Are you a stud or a
yeah?"
stud,
Like I remember when I was like 18 and I just came out and I messaged some girl that I thought was really pretty, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm only into stems or something, or studs," and I was like, "Oh, okay."
But there's a lot of other LGBTQ plus women or, you know, non-binary or different classifications that look like you, but they would identify their gender and their pronouns would be he and him.
Yeah.
So do you think that kind of debunks that just because she looks like a boy, she wants to be called a boy? Or what's your personal experience? Have you been confused? Do you get confused often as a guy? Or?
Yeah, I do. It doesn't really bug me getting my gender confused because I feel completely confident in myself that I'm she, her, and I don't really care if other people confuse me. Okay. But it did used to a lot. Okay. You know? So it happens a lot in the union or at work, you know, like on a job site, people would confuse me. And honestly, when that happens, I usually don't even try to speak, because as soon as I speak, they know I'm a girl. Okay. And I'm more, since it doesn't bug me at all, I'm more consciously aware that it makes them feel really weird once they hear me talk and they know that they misgendered me. So that's kind of maybe a weird take. I'm sure a lot of people don't feel like that, but that's kind of how I approach it.
Because there's other people that look like you and they might say, hello, like I'm making the effort to look like a boy, dress like a boy. I'm a boy, right? I'm a guy. Like I want to be. But then in your case, I think it's more like a by case scenario, or how.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like if it just if it needs a correction, you'll be corrected. And if Liz looks like a guy, she doesn't want to be called a guy, you will correct it if it bothered you. And that's how.
Like if it continuously happened, then it would be like, okay, come on, like I'm a girl. Or we could just say like, hey, my pronoun. But some people ask like, what are your pronouns?
Right.
That's
Let's talk about job sites. Like on the job site, especially us, we wear hard hats. For the majority part of COVID, we were wearing masks. We all just look like it's hard to tell our gender, right?
Well, and I don't have any hair, so nobody can just look at my hair and assume anything, you know?
Right. Like Valerie said in her interview, she believes everybody's kind-hearted. They have good at heart, and I strongly believe that too, especially in construction, you know? Everyone there is such hard workers. They're good people, but education goes a long way. Maybe they don't know how to ask these questions. They don't know how to touch topics on gays.
Well, and you know, there's something to be said about any type of sensitivity might be deemed as not super masculine. So
that's true.
I don't know this because I'm not a man, so I can't speak for all men, you know. But I feel like if they ask questions about you know, being gay or whatever, the proper stuff, that comes across maybe a little bit too soft. And there's a lot of guys that are like, oh, I'm not gay, you know, like there's a lot of sensitivity around this subject. So even when talking to women, like lesbians, about it, it just doesn't, I mean, it doesn't really happen a lot unless it's more like a one-on-one scenario. You know, it's not a topic that happens in the elevator. You know?
But the goal is to change that. The goal is to normalize. How do you feel as an LGBTQ plus carpenter in the construction industry? What have your experiences been like?
I don't really come from somewhere where there's a big community of gay people.
Okay.
So working in the union has been the first time that I've been around a lot of gay women.
Wow.
Especially like all at work. You know?
Like all construction workers.
Yes, and it's cool. It's super cool. Like I never, I don't know. It's an industry that it's pretty gay dominant for women.
Yeah.
Not all women in the union are gay at all, you know. But
or in construction.
But it's definitely, I've seen it more than any other field that I've worked in, and it was super cool.
Yeah.
So that's a positive.
You just got engaged, right?
I did, yeah.
Amazing,
yeah,
congratulations.
Right around Christmas, so.
Your upbringing, were you always out, or what was one of the biggest struggles you had before coming out?
Well, I was raised in a very religious Christian home. It was not, you know, acceptable to be gay. I didn't know. I had no idea. I thought everybody thought like I did, and then it wasn't until high school that I realized that the way that I feel is definitely different than everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't exposed to any type of gay culture growing up, so I didn't come out until towards the end of high school. I was 17.
Same. I'm a late bloomer. I came out at 21.
Yeah.
I think I'm 10 years older than you, though. All we were taught growing up were boy and girl, girl and boy. So if you know you had feelings for a girl, which in my case, since I was about in kindergarten, I started having crushes, but I didn't know what that was.
I didn't know either.
And then growing up as a teenager, adolescence, all you hear about gays were such like bad stuff. Like you're a dyke, it's bad. You're a it's bad. You know, you hear those type of words that when you do your studies, because you weren't taught it and or you're not around it, it's like, oh, I realize I'm a lesbian and that's a bad thing. So I'm just gonna be homophobic and closeted, and that was a really sad part of my life. That's why it took me so long to come out.
Yeah, me too. It was a very anxious, sad time. You know, it's like, oh, people are gonna find out, but then also it's like you feel this big weight on you all the time.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like you need to say it. And also, I think 10 years ago there was a lot more violence towards gay people, which is kind of starting to happen again. So
Still
I feel
exists,
like
and
which is so important to bring awareness to, because I think a lot of people just think, well, you know, gay marriage has been legal for what, like 8 years or something.
Right.
So it's just accepted, but that's not the case.
No.
You know.
No,
like,
there's struggles
There's
with
been
everybody.
a lot of rewind on things.
Right.
You know.
And you know, in the construction industry, for me, I felt like I fit right in, because my personal experience has been great. I haven't been discriminated. I have never experienced like, oh, you're a lesbian, I'm not gonna give you work. Or any like either homophobia or disrespect sexually, none of that.
I think if anything, it's more on the opposite end of the spectrum. It's like, okay, you're a masculine presenting lesbian, you are just one of us, and it can be taken a little bit too far.
Which part?
You know,
The
forgetting
one
that-
of us?
Yeah, like,
Okay.
oh, you're just a guy. Like,
Oh.
you're just one of us guys. Like, I even had one of my bosses ask me that. Like, oh, but aren't you just one of us? Like, you're just one of us guys? And I'm like, no, I'm not.
No.
I'm not just one of you guys. I'm a woman still.
Yeah.
And being, like, misgendered isn't really the problem. It's more of, like, how guys communicate to each other. And, you know, not always in the most appropriate way for
Right.
a woman to be a part of that conversation.
Right?
I don't know. I think it can be taken a little bit. That's the only negative thing that I've had happen
Right.
to me, is that
Well,
it's gone too far.
Yeah,
in
and
that
just because
respect.
I haven't experienced that doesn't mean that I'm not aware of other people like you and other LGBTQ plus members
Right.
who have experienced it. And that's
Yeah.
why it's important for me to bring this topic and like, let's try to create a way to be more inclusive. Let's try to create a way to inform and to educate so that, you know, misidentifying people or disrespecting people doesn't really happen too much, especially in
Right.
construction, because we're construction workers.
Well, and without it being so black and white, like, I don't, just because, you know, I'm like chill, laid back stud doesn't mean like, oh, well, she's not a girly girl, so she must be a boy. You know, it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like, I fit
Right.
somewhere in the middle along with a lot of people. Most of us are, you know, we're somewhere on some type of a scale. That's like,
Right.
that's what the whole gay thing is. You know, there's a spectrum.
What do you think about siblings in carpentry?
Oh, I think it's awesome. You know, super cool. Because, I don't know, I don't really feel like a sister in the brotherhood, if that makes sense.
Although you identify as a
although I
woman?
identify as a woman, I'm not like a girly, feminine girl. I'm just not. Like, that's why we call each other bro or dude or whatever.
Right,
Like,
right.
even though I am feminine, very feminine internally, I'm not like, oh, sis, how's it going? Or
Right.
sister, or I just don't feel like that.
Right.
I guess. So Siblings in Carpentry is very inclusive of everybody, and I think that's great.
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Liz. Aside from work, you and I are really close friends out of work, and you know, all our conversations that we have are also really heartfelt, and I appreciate your honesty and also being brave enough to sit here and have this conversation with me and in front of this cameras.
Yeah.
And you know, I appreciate you.
I'm super with it. Also, if anybody who sees this video has questions that they'd like to ask, you know, if you're closeted or you're out or you're in a tough, sticky situation at work, you know, we've all had various scenarios that maybe is hard to talk about. Feel free to send me a message or whatever. I don't, you know, it can remain private, and if you just need help or whatever, you know, Thereza's a good person for that, and so am I. So
Yeah. I'll make sure to add our contact information, our social media handles, and you know that we're here for you guys, and we are a community, and we're gonna help each other out. Any advice, any questions you guys have, just feel free to hit us up, and we're always available.
yeah.
All right, bro. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Of course.
All right, dude.
I'll see you at work on Monday.
I'll see you at work on Monday.